We're live. This is it. Very, very, very first Paranormal Monkey podcast. I am just so ecstatic and just so pleased to have you with us. I've just, before I do anything else, I've just got to thank so many people. You have obviously put your trust in me straight away. I've got like nearly 150 subscribers on no videos whatsoever. So thank you so much for that, for all the support, for the chat, for the messages, for the articles, everything that you guys have done. So thank you. So the Paranormal Monkey podcast starts right now. Wow, big deep breaths. But first and foremost, I've got to say, with this podcast, obviously a brand new little venture for me, going from Paranormal Truth Days and doing Superneutral podcasts every single Monday to doing this all on my own. It's a kind of big step for me, and I just hope that I can do some of you guys proud. And really, actually, I just want to make it a really great, light-hearted, interactive podcast. It's never going to be, what I never wanted was for this podcast to be like a two-way conversation between me and a guest, where everybody at home just kind of blindly watches and doesn't really get involved. So what I'd like you guys to do to make this an enjoyable experience, every single Monday, joining me here at 8 o'clock, I'll be talking to different people, but being part of it, being part of that conversation. And yeah, it'd be great, obviously, to watch it on catch up and things like that, but to get the full experience, I'd love it if you could just be with it, with me at the premiere, joining in, chatting away, putting the live chat on and things like that, because you will be part of that conversation. You can fire away questions to me on here, and I will pass them straight on to the guests. It's it's the very beginning of a fantastic kind of little adventure for me, really. I'm thoroughly kind of looking forward to it all. I've already got a couple of guests lined up, which is excellent. But yeah, so it's hopefully going to be an enjoyable experience, a fun experience. I'm not here to berate other paranormal teams. There's enough of that online. I'm not here to kind of have a go at fakery and things like that. What I'm really all about, and what the whole point of this podcast is all about, is for you guys to kind of experience some of the chat and experience some of the different viewpoints all about the paranormal. So I will be getting on skeptics, and I will be getting on those believers and academics and people who are involved in looking after history locations, and those people who have just maybe been on YouTube and experienced something phenomenal. All these different experiences that people have had to kind of really get to grips with what the hell is going on with the paranormal. Because I've been doing this long enough, and I'll talk a little bit about, for those that don't know me and I've never heard of me before, and I've never kind of come across me before, probably a little bit about myself in terms of where I started from and why I got into it. But to cut a kind of very long story short, I've been investigating the paranormal for quite a long time. Probably started real interest from about the age of 16, perhaps a little bit before then, but not properly investigating until I was an adult, obviously. And then I've been with ghost event companies. I've been working for ghost event companies, and I've gone off on my own and decided to do things on my own with camcorders and not really knowing what I'm doing an awful lot of the time, and trying different pieces of equipment out. And some of it was, not working as I wanted it to work, or a bit fallible. So, and then obviously, for those that have followed me from the Paranormal Truth days, when I was out with Dale Makin and going all the way around the country and filming documentaries and being, this very kind of skeptical background that I've come from. But that doesn't mean that I don't believe in these things, because I've also, and we as Paranormal Truth in the past, have experienced some really mad things. So we kind of know there's something going on out there. So the crux of this whole podcast is, what is going on? And hopefully we can try and help by answering some of those questions. I'm going to speak to loads of different types of people. I will, like I say, I've already got a couple of people lined up, but I don't want this to just be about the academics. I don't just want this to be about the YouTubers. It's just your average Joe going on a ghost hunt, enjoying going on a weekend little thing, maybe having a really, really mad experience, or going to a haunted location and just being there for the history, perhaps. Maybe, the ghost hunting is a bit of a bonus, but actually being part of being part of the experience of going on a ghost hunt, and maybe you just want to find out more, because we are going to be talking about, yes, we're going to be talking about equipment, and we're going to be talking about different investigative practices and what works and what doesn't work, and having a bit of a debate. That's it, a really proper little debate about like I say, techniques and equipment and things like that, and what's the best way to go ghost hunting, and what kind of things should you avoid, and and all of these kinds of things, which actually matter and may not be too common, because a lot of people, when they first start out ghost hunting, and I was one of them, we just kind of get into um, following techniques that you might have seen on TV, which is not always the best thing to do. So, big deep breaths, and hopefully, like I say, the big thing for you for this is to make this whole experience, this whole podcast interactive. Um, Without the live chat, without the people messaging and being part of this podcast, it just won't work, because like I say, I just want you to feel part of it. So first of all, just thank you. Thank you to all the individuals, and I'm just already blown away. I've already got 150 odd subscribers nearly, with no videos. This is the very, very first video and the very, very first podcast. Now I do have a little guest lined up. In a few more minutes, they hopefully just turn up, and that guest is not going to. It's not academic, but this. I've invited my mum onto this podcast because, um, to go right back, and again to go right back where it all started from. For those that have followed me on Twitter, and I've talked about it in Haunted Magazine and different articles, my whole journey of this paranormal business started when I was a kid, and I was a really young kid, when I was about 7 years old. So, and like I said, on my Twitter handle, you'll see that it just says lived with a poltergeist as a child. And I spoke about this on Saturday, and I was on Dead Cold Paranormal. So thank you to Mark for inviting me on, so I could actually talk a little bit about the history of things. But hopefully, I'm going to today, for this first little experience, I'm going to go in a little bit more detail, and I'm going to get my mum on board, and she can talk about her experiences. Remember, I was only 7, so it really mattered to her, happened to her, and she can talk about her feelings and things like that. And also I'll show you the pictures of the house that I used to live in at the time. I'll show you what my bedroom used to look like, and the hallway and things like that, and kind of link those photos, kind of experiences that I had as a child. And then hopefully then we can you'll understand why I've just been fascinated by the paranormal for so long, and actually poltergeists in particular, because poltergeists I have a bit of a thing for. I've been fascinated by poltergeists, and straight, hand on heart, straight away, I've never seen a ghost. I don't know if I ever will. I'd love to, but I've never seen a ghost. But I have witnessed poltergeist activity in different forms. So, first, before we get going with that little chat and things like that, like I said, I want to make this completely interactive. So, people who are online right now, please say hello. Please say hello. So, if you're online, you chat, you're kind of listening into me. Type in a message. Please tell me that you can hear me okay, that you can see me okay, and make sure I'm not just talking to myself, because that would be awesome. Because right now, it's very difficult to know whether I'm actually talking to myself and whether this is going out okay. So let me just, like I say, I'm just going to just check the chat and things like that. And like I say, hopefully you guys can see me, and hopefully you guys can hear me. I'm just going to make sure that everything is running as it should. He says, fingers crossed. So if you can hear me, then please do, like I say, if you can just pop it in the chat that you can see and hear me, that would be awesome. That would help me out massively. So I'm just check the live stream. Oh yeah, I seem to be okay. Okay. Right. So like I said, I started all this when I was a kid, when I first got interested, and I have waiting in the wings my mom. Now, I've spoken about this business, like I said, but it's just always been from me. It's never been from my mum, who kind of was practically is the one who experienced everything. So I'm going to bring my mum in, and I think she might be a bit nervous, but she'll be fine. So let's say hello to my mum. Hello, mum. Can you hear me okay? Nice and loud, because I can't hear you, mother. Right, you need to be a lot closer to the mic. You need to be a lot closer to the phone, because I can't hear a word you're saying. No, still can't hear you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, if you speak up and close to the phone, then I can hear you, mum. All right. Okay, right. So, just to start this little chat about this whole chat, and I've got some pictures as well about where we used to live. All right. Have you plugged your headphones into your phone, by the way, because I can still hear it. You're a bit kind of scratchy. I don't think the reception is very good. But so from the beginning, obviously, if you wanted to like say, obviously we had this kind of strange poltergeist thing happening in the 1980s. Do you want to just first of all explain a little bit about the house we moved to?
Yeah, the house was about 100 years old, and we moved in 1984. November 1984, quite a long time.
Right, Mum, I think, well, first of all, I can hardly hear you because it's a really bad internet reception, I think. And it's quite glitchy at the minute, so you need to be a little bit closer to the microphones. I don't think people will be able to hear you at home, I don't think. Yeah, still a little bit glitchy, though. So we moved into this house in 1984, right? What can you really explain what type of, what the house was like and things like that? So, in terms of what was it before we moved there and a little bit about the history of the house.
The house
Right, Mum. Right, Mum. Hang on, stop there. I cannot hear anything you're saying because it's really, really bad internet reception. I can't hear what you're saying at all, unfortunately. So I don't.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, well, I can just hear you, but it's very, very glitchy. So I don't know if the internet's working particularly well, I'm afraid. So I don't know if there's anything you can do about it, but it's pretty poor reception. But if I just try and briefly, that's a little bit better. Yeah, if I try and briefly explain about the house. So it used to be a shop for the workers of a shoe factory that used to be opposite our home. And I'll show everybody a picture at home about what it actually looked like. Oh, there's me. I'll just start with me. So this is me. I'm the eldest, by the way. And that's roughly the age I was when this poltergeist thing happened. I was about 7. So I think this photo is taken roughly from the time that I was, that we were in this, we had this whole poltergeist experience.
Yes,
now,
definitely.
There we go. So this is the home that we used to live in, and this used to be a shop, and it used to have, like I say, it used to have metal. I think that we had still found metal signs when we first moved in that used to be on the side of the building, and it was built in 1899, and originally a shop for the workers of the shoe factory, and then it was converted into 2 houses, and then changed to 1 house, and we moved there in 1984. I don't know how good the reception is, Mum, but in terms of when we first moved in, what did you think of the house?
For smaller house, this one was huge because it had 5 bedrooms, large sitting room, kitchen, and big garden. So I was quite impressed with it.
Right, Mum, I'm sorry, I can't. It's really, really, really glitchy. If I like I say, I want to try and kind of keep you into the conversation a little bit, but I can't, honestly. I don't know what it's like, guys at home, but it for me, I can't really hear what you're saying because it's a bit.
You're allowed to me.
Yeah, well, hopefully you can hear me okay. Can you?
I can hear you well.
Yeah, well, I think the internet is very, 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 very kind of slow in where you are, I'm afraid, because it's very, very, very glitchy. I can't hardly tell what you're saying. right? So if I just obviously for those that are kind of watching, if I just go through some bits and pieces, then if hopefully the glitchiness will sort itself out. So obviously this was it was when I think we first bought it. It was like a 3-bedroom house when we first had it, and from the very kind of first night, I know that you didn't like the property at all from the very first night, did you, Mum? In terms of like what were you worried about when it was on that first night?
On the first night, just so uncomfortable. I have to have all the lights on. I just had a feeling about the place.
He had a really bad. It's like I'm going to try and interpret. He had a really bad feeling about the place, really uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Was there any particular area that you found was particularly bad?
It was the bedrooms were freezing cold.
Yeah.
Allow anyone to be in there. So cold. The heating was on. Talking November. It was so cold. And the other room had a bad odor.
Right, Mum. Right, Mum. Let me try and sort this out. Right, if you can, because like I say, I still can't really tell what you're saying because it's a very bad line. Could you either just do a couple of things for me? Either go a little bit closer to the server, or turn the server off and then turn it back on again and see if that helps it, because you're really glitchy. So what I'll do is I'll just turn you off for the minute, and then when you're ready, I'll bring you back on. If you just click that link again, then it can bring you back on, and hopefully it's a little bit less glitchy. Pardon, sorry? Well, well, at the minute, like I say, I can't really tell what you're saying. So if you go a little bit closer to where your server is, then we might if you go a little bit closer to where the server is, we might make it a bit better. But if yeah, like I say, it was a lot better than the other day than it is now, unfortunately. I don't know why the internet's so bad at your end, I'm afraid. But yeah, that's a little bit better, but it's still a bit glitchy, I'm afraid. Yeah. So I'll try again in a bit, and then I'll talk a little bit about the house again, and then I'll try again in a bit and see if it's any better. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Sorry about that, guys, because like I said, I don't know how about for you, but that's quite tricky. So I mean, it's very tricky. It's a shame because it was really good. That reception was really good the other day when I was talking to my mum. Anyway, yeah, I'll just very briefly explain. So this was the house, and it was in a place called Raunds in Northamptonshire. We first moved there in 1984 in November, and I don't know how well you could tell, but my mum was saying that on the very first day, she had a really uncomfortable feeling about the house, and my bedroom in particular was freezing cold, and she would go into my room, and it would be so cold she could see her breath in the air. That's even when, and I know this was November 1984, so it would have been cold. However, the radiators were all on. It was a south-facing building. There should have been no real difference between my room and my parents' bedroom, which is on my room, by looking at the pictures, on the left-hand side at the top, and my parents' room is on the right-hand side. So there should have been no real difference between my bedroom and my parents' bedroom. You can see on the building, structurally, it's exactly the same. But it was, and there was no issues with problems with the heating. The heat was coming through the radiators, but actually it was just extremely cold. And the smell in my room was like a musty, potatoey type smell, which we couldn't really shift. And from the very, like I say, first day, I think my mum, like I say, had this really uneasy feeling about the property. She was made sure we all slept in the same room. That was on night number 1. And the podcast activity we had lasted for about 6 weeks. And it was kind of short-lived, in terms of looking at poltergeist activity. That's about typical, actually, about 6 weeks. But it's kind of like an interesting little footnote at the end, which I'll try and get my mum to explain. But we had some different activities. I'll see if my mum can actually explain what kinds of weird things was going on in the house. So just go and bring her back in. Right, Mum, can I hear you? Just about. It's still dead glitchy though. So I was just trying to explain in that 6 weeks, the really weird thing was happening.
Yeah.
What things did you actually experience?
So, the things that were moving, like toys and personal items, changing different locations. And
Right, hang on. I've got real issues. I'm afraid we've got real issues with this. I'm not. I tell you what I might need to do. I tell you what I might need to do is I might need you to get back onto the podcast when we've got your microphone working, because at the minute I think it's the internet is so slow at your end. I can't hear anything you're saying hardly, which is a real shame. So what I'll have to do is I'll have to explain things to everybody, because I can't. Nobody will be able to watch and can't hear you really. So what we'll try and do is another time we'll try and get you on, and when you've got better internet, better internet kind of stuff going on. But yeah, I'm sorry guys. I tried to get my mum on, but yeah, I'm sorry. So I'll have to do this on my own, I'm afraid. So what's you? Oh, it's so annoying because I really want my mum to explain. So essentially, what's happening? We were dead young. Let's go back to this first picture. This is how young I was. And you can see that I've got my two brothers there. So there's three of us all together. There's Dean in the middle and Brett, the youngest. And so we obviously had loads of little toys and lots of little things and toys lying around. And we had them, yes, as toddlers do. We had lots of toys to play with. But what happened is they would get a bit messy. So my mum would put them away in a box, and they would go out and tidy up and go out for shopping or something, lock the house up, come back, and the toys would be scattered all around the house again. So the toys would be moving. The toys was quite a common occurrence. And, obviously at that time, my mum was kind of terrified. She didn't really understand what exactly was going on. And but my dad was pretty, found it quite funny, to be honest. He just found it really quite amusing. So I'll just go through, obviously, we had the toys thing. Now, this is my bedroom. Now, this bedroom, as you can hopefully can see on the screen there, it's quite a nice room, but it didn't look anything like that in the 1980s. It was a little bit different, a little bit shabbier, because it was, a boy's bedroom. And but that was the room that's always freezing cold. It was a kind of like a we could, like I said, we could never shift it. We could never understand it, and this kind of musty, earthy smell was a very strange occurrence. But that was occurred quite often. Now, this is obviously when you go into the house, this is the hallway, and then obviously the stairs, leading upstairs. And one of the things that used to happen, now the door on the left hand side at the bottom there is the door that leads to the kitchen. And the wall that you can see to the left of that door, which has a mirror on it in that picture, that wall was banged by something. And I asked my mum in terms of, I thought it only happened the once or maybe once or twice, but actually this banging would be a daily occurrence over these 6 weeks. Now, as I've got older, part of me, the skeptical side of me is like, well, was it just underfloor heating? Was it pipes? There's a radiator there. Could it have been that? But what my mum did was basically get annoyed with it over time. She came a little bit cross with it over time because it was banging so much. She used to have plates on the other side in the kitchen, on the wall, it being the 1980s. And she was worried that those plates would smash, they would break. And therefore, she just got cross and would just tell it to stop. She'd get so frustrated, she'd just tell it to stop with a bit of swearing, and it would just stop. Now, the fact that it's shaking is obviously strange enough. The fact that it stopped on command from my mum was just bizarre, and even now I can't quite wrap my head around that. Now, I always had. We as kids, growing up there, you kind of get used to this kind of strange layout of the stairs and things like that. But this is the upstairs landing, and I never liked this landing. Now, it wasn't as open as this before. You can probably see that it used to be like a pretty much like a wall across, and my dad knocked that wall down, so it was quite a narrow, fairly dark kind of landing at the top there, and I never liked it. Just felt uncomfortable with it for a very long time. So we had these the toys moving, we had this wall being banged, and we also had the sound of glass smashing. Now, and then obviously on inspection, my mum wouldn't find anything. There'd be no glass that was smashed, but she'd hear this sound of glass smashing. And this was the kind of environment I grew up in, but also, which some of it I still remember. I remember the cold, I remember the smells. I remember my dad laughing because sometimes the TV would change channels on its own quite randomly. And he would make light of it, make joke of it because he didn't want to scare us. And I can still remember all of that really vividly and clearly. I think because my dad took it quite in a humorous way, I was never felt that scared as a kid. My two brothers were a little bit too young to kind of fully understand what was going on, but I was never that scared. But because of that atmosphere and because of growing up around that, that's where I suppose the idea of strange things started to kind of occur in my head. Now, like I said, that a kind of weird footnote. Obviously, this lasted for about 6 weeks and only stopped when the former owner of the house, a lady called Mrs. Mason, was happened to be in the area. She'd moved away to Oxford and had come back and was just visiting her friends. And while she was in the town, she decided that she would come over and look at the property and see what would be doing. And so that's what she did. And we didn't mention my mum and dad didn't mention the poltergeist stuff or anything along those lines. So she was looking around and chatting, and my dad was decorating and wallpapering and bit of DIYing because my dad was a builder at the time, and all very, very pleasant. But before she left, this Mrs. Mason just turned around to my mum and dad and said, "You've been having some really strange things happen here, haven't you?" And my mum and dad hadn't mentioned anything, and she said, "No, it's okay." She said, "It's I can't remember this guy. I've said in previous. I think his name was Martin. I'm not entirely sure. I might be wrong on this one, but she said it's all right. It's Martin. It's all right now. You won't. He's coming with me. You won't have any more problems now." And after that day, the poltergeist activity stopped. As far as I remember, the rooms got warm. My room got warm. I didn't, this smell of kind of this musty, earthy smell just kind of dissipated and disappeared. And that was the end of the poltergeist. And it was a really strange thing. And then I said this on the Dead Cold Paranormal chat that I did on Saturday. It didn't really, looking back now, it didn't really fit a proper poltergeist case. We were a young family, yes. It was short-lived, yes. But there was no adolescent teenagers. There was no great stress other than moving house. It was a bit of a strange one to kind of wrap your head around. I'm just going to just do this one. Now, this is the living room downstairs. It used to be 2 rooms, and the wall was knocked down to make one larger room. And you might just be able to see that on the left-hand side, there used to be 2 double doors there. And I think they used to face the doors would open into the living room, and my dad changed them around so they opened the other way. Now, apparently, Mr. Mason was not particularly amazing at DIY. So if he did any DIY, he was very, very proud of it. And it just so happened that when we changed those doors, we got more activity. Well, see, I can remember there being a conversation about there being more activity and more strange things happen when we changed and when we did a bit of decorating. And I suppose, even though I wasn't scared at the time, and even though I was very, very young, that sowed the seeds. So that's where it all started. And then obviously after that, I got involved in the paranormal that way, because there was this little thing that happened and this little seed that occurred, and actually it like I say, it never went away. And I spent the rest of my time trying to work out and understand the paranormal. And yeah, that's where it all started. I'm so sorry that my mum's internet connection was so bad. I will try and get her on to talk properly when we can get a decent internet reception for her. Bless her. And yeah, because I couldn't listen to that. Sorry, mum. But that's a real shame. So what I'm going to do first, because like I said, I want this to be interactive, I'm going to do I want to see a bit of Q&A from you guys at home, because I'm going to change the screen now. So that was how my interest in paranormal started. But this is your turn, guys. What was your first experience? Why are you into the paranormal? You're watching this podcast for a reason. You're obviously interested in the paranormal, but what was it that got you into the paranormal? I'm going to give you a couple of minutes, guys, because obviously by the time this stream comes through, I mean, tell me, because like I say, it's something that was a childhood experience, and I think a lot of people actually they have. Some people have an experience as a child, and it stays with them. Some people visit a location, and they might have something really strange happen to them. But now is your time to see if you can go through and just tell me what is it that got you into this. Now, obviously, whilst you're writing that into the chat, I'll basically just obviously for me, growing up around that, and obviously when I was about 13, I read This House is Haunted by Guy Lyon Playfair, and I got really fascinated by the Enfield poltergeist, and I can remember reading it and really wanting to be in that home of the Enfield poltergeist home, and like I say, and experiencing that madness for myself. Oh, I've got some great things coming through. So, Dead Cold says the Hamlin Book of Horror and Ghostbusters. Let's have a look. Do you know the reason my parents let me watch The Exorcist when I was a kid? Was hooked from there. Awesome. My mum telling siblings and I about her experience as a young girl. What were those experiences? That's so cool. And I say, looking at the chat there, starting my ex-girlfriends 20 years ago, said, walked to the bedroom without opening the door. That's mad. Strange banging noise in the front bedroom happened from then on, says Lisa. Black shape scene. I'm like I say, this is the kind of stuff I just love. I love the kind of experiences of other people, of what has driven you to this. Like sometimes it is just a book. Sometimes it might be the Osborne Book of Ghosts, for instance. Sometimes it's just very strange things. Louise says, my first house, cold board house. My mum had to get the local priest round to bless it. Then my nan's house, podcast empty, pictures swinging from left or right. This whole thing about pictures and podcasts, I've heard that so often. Quite often, I've heard that where poltergeists would seemingly either swing pictures or turn them round. It's such a common thing. Jonathan saying, remember one Christmas, a wind chime in our lounge just went crazy. I read about Alison's. I read about the village church and rectory being haunted when I was about 8. Fascinated to read about places I went to. Then worked in a haunted pub. I love, like I said, this is the kind of stuff I just find fascinating. Oh, Paulie, definitely. Arthur C. Clarke on TV. I was mad on Arthur C. Clarke. It was just incredible. And like I said, he was a massive skeptic, but I just loved that program. It's strange but true as well. There was the original one called Ghost Hunters. Don't know if you guys remember it. It was an old British TV series a long time ago. And I was kind of really into that as well. Saw a body floating out of a wall. All happened after 3 a.m. for some reason. That is just creepy crazy. See, I've never seen anything like that. Never seen anything like that. And it's such a rare event to see like an apparition. So I love that kind of stuff. And so look, I rarely believe they're caught by most people as they look and moving like what I saw, but I witnessed red and white glowing orbs in my bedroom when I was 9. That's like I say, I don't think I've ever seen an orb, and I don't, the kind of, you see them on Facebook and things like that when people take CCTV footage and it's like dust and it's things like that. So I've never seen an orb in real life floating around in the air. It's just something I've never ever seen. Ghostwatch is a great shout. I remember watching Ghostwatch as a kid, thought it was real for a while, started to freak me out, and then I realized by the end it was so nuts and just so crazy when the studio like blew up and stuff. I just thought, this is ridiculous. Haley, got to say, it's Most Haunted. If only I knew then what I know now. Yeah, I got to say, I did used to watch Most Haunted. I was a big critic of Most Haunted eventually, obviously. But I think actually in the first few series, Most Haunted seemed to be legit. They seemed to be kind of doing it for the right reasons. They seemed to get, and even though they were a bit dodgy with the whole orbs thing, which I do remember that from the early series. I think they did it for the right reasons. I think they were just trying to get it. They're doing it for the, but then it became all a bit ridiculous and a bit silly. Yeah. So some people just, some people basically talk. It's very similar about Most Haunted. That's absolutely fine. And like I said, this is the kind of stuff Most Haunted did start with good intentions. Yes, I think they did, and absolutely. So I'm just like I said, I'm loving the chat at the minute. I mean, Dark Veil. Yes, I know Derek Acor. I think we did. For those that remember Paranormal Truth doing that in the middle of Bodmin Jail, doing a Derek Acor Mary Loves Dick impression. That was a highlight. I think Dale beat me though. I think he was a bit more accurate than I was. Let's see. Oh dear, my first orb in daylight seen with a naked eye was at Muncaster Castle. Yeah, I've never experienced that. Never experienced that. It was such a, it's that, to me, that's such a rare thing. And all the times I've never seen an orb kind of floating, you know, whilst I've been at a haunted location or seen one during the daylight hours. It's for me, it's very, very rare. People capture them all the time on digital camera, obviously, because they're not real orbs. They're just dust particles or pollen and things like that. Creed Kafer. If and when we get Kieran O'Keefe on this podcast, I'm gonna have to raise Creed Kafer. You know I have to. So it'll be all good. All good. Right. Yeah. So obviously interest the paranormal. People have seen some people have seen it. I've seen something or experienced something or lived in a haunted house or been involved with like a pub or seen a particular TV show. There's loads of different reasons why we're into this kind of weird and wonderful hobby of ours. And so I like I say, I think it's I was going to say, has anybody obviously podcast activity and hauntings of things are fairly common. Is there anybody who's actually experienced anything which is really uncommon? So I'm going to go for things like time slips, for instance. That's really uncommon. Or even actually, I would say an apparition is really uncommon. I think it's very rare to see a ghost. I've never seen a ghost. So I'd love to do that. I'll have to have that experience. Let's have a look. Peregrine F1. Heard what I thought was mum bringing in our tea when I was 12, but when I turned around, it was a full-on apparition that walked across the back of the room. Now, see, whenever anybody sees an apparition, I'm always wondering whether they were like a solid figure, because in a lot of apparition ghost cases, it seems quite a solid figure. Now, I see my mum waiting in the wings. I'm going to try, and now I don't know whether my brother Brett has been able to sort her out with better connection or something. Now then, keep your fingers crossed, everybody. Let's just see.
Hi.
Mother?
Can you see me now?
Mother?
Hey! Oh, we're on.
Hey! That's better.
Oh, wow.
That's better.
That's much better.
Hang on a minute. Hang on. Let's just go this one. Let's get rid of my picture. There we go. That's a bit better.
Is that better?
Has Brett sorted you out?
Well, Aidan sorted me out now.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Well,
yes.
In terms of the pictures, they'll be glitchy, but I can hear you, which is the main thing. You.
Oh, that's brilliant. Oh, good.
We'll get there.
I don't know what went wrong. I think my internet went down.
Oh, well, there must have been a good reason why that must have been very, very bad. Really bad.
Yeah.
So, should we get right? So, I've kind of explained a little bit about how, but I've always said
yes,
much better coming from your point of view, because I was only little, right? And then we had this whole internet issue.
Yeah.
So, I moved in 1984. First day. What was the issue from day one for you?
Uncomfortable, I would say. Very uncomfortable. I didn't feel right at all. Everything wasn't right, especially the bedrooms, which was really cold. Even though it was November and the heating was on, that one of the bedrooms was freezing cold, and I needed to have all the lights on because I felt uncomfortable.
Yeah. And that was, like I say, the first night we made us all sleep in the same room. You was that uncomfortable.
Yeah. Even though it's 5-bedroom house, you had to stay in one room because everywhere else we couldn't let you go in there, but it was too cold.
Were you scared of the house from the beginning?
I wasn't scared. I just felt something wasn't right and uncomfortable.
And what do you mean by it wasn't right?
What do you mean by it wasn't right?
I just had a feeling something wasn't right.
Yeah.
And as things progressed, it got worse. Things were moving around, sounds, glass, TV channels were changing. We could hear glass smashing, but there was no glass anywhere.
Yeah.
But we could hear it.
Yeah.
And also, I said it earlier on that the wall between the hallway and the kitchen used to kind of be beaten or like being hit.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, I
Yes.
said you kind of would tell it to stop and it would stop. But were you kind of, how did you feel at that point? Were you scared or was it you just angry with it?
I can't remember feeling scared, but when it was shaking and we couldn't control it, Dad used to laugh it off, and I used to start crying because it was annoying me. And we had plates on that actual wall, and it was knocking the plates off. And we would say, stop it, and then we'd put our palms of our hands on the walls, and then gradually it would just calm down and stop. This wall was in between the kitchen and the hallway.
Yeah, I've shown people a photo of it. So. Like I say, so you had this glass smashing, you had this wall kind of, I mean, did it kind of die down or did it just stop all in one go? Because I wasn't too sure about that.
It would just die down quickly.
Right, okay.
And we would say, stop it. It would last about, I would say about a minute, maybe longer.
Yeah. And like I said, this nearly happened pretty much every day for a while.
Yes. Yes. And in between all that time, your toys would move into different locations. We would designate the toys in one particular room, and then we'll find them huddled in the other room, and we don't know how they got there.
So they would. I mean, it wasn't like within the same room. They'd been moved into different rooms then.
Yes. And I was wondering, who the hell has moved these toys? And I would get annoyed because I'd trip over them because they were always in the way.
And were they always downstairs or were they upstairs as well? Did they kind of move on different levels?
No, these were all downstairs because you had a playroom. It was the dining room, which was your playroom.
Right, okay. And so we said this lasted about 6 weeks, from November to December 1984. And I mentioned about Mrs. Mason coming around. What was her husband's name? I can't remember. Was it Martin?
Yeah, her name was Diane Mason, and her husband's name was Martin Mason.
I thought it was Martin. I couldn't remember if it was Martin. It was probably Martin.
Yeah.
So when she came around that time, she said that little comment at the end before she left about him going with her.
Yes. Now,
go on.
Sorry. Go on. Now, you've got to remember, they were in the process of renovating the house. The last part of the house was the hall. And they had to get builders in to finish it off because, unfortunately, Martin Mason was killed in a motorbike accident. And he was only 27. And they'd only been married a little while. And when she come round, she brought round their best man who come to the wedding, who was at the wedding, and he obviously hadn't seen the house, so she brought him round to show the house. So I gladly let them go round the house to have a look.
And did she pick up on? Did she say anything as she was going around or not? About the weird?
I don't know. I don't know what she was saying because I let them go round on their own. I didn't go round with them.
Right, okay.
And because she wanted just to show what they'd already done, i.e. the decorating and the knocking of the walls and, and things like that. But she had to get the builders in to finish it off because he died. Anyway, I don't know whether, I don't know what was said, but they went round and they stayed about an hour.
Right, okay. So that was longer than I thought, actually. I thought they weren't, I didn't think they were there that long.
No, they stayed a good hour, a good little while. I can't remember whether you kids were there because you was only 7 and the others were 4 and 3. I can't remember whether you were there, but they did go around the whole house.
And And I said that at the end,
and I said that at the end,
as she left, she said she was mentioning about the weird activity that's going on, that Martin was going with her now. What exactly did she say? To you at the time?
When she left, she thanked me for letting her go around the house, and then she said something which made me freeze. She said, "Martin's with me now,"
and
then she left. And then once she'd gone, the house calmed down, and it was my home.
So in terms, obviously, after she left, this is the really weird bit for me, right? Because
Yeah.
I can dismiss things like TV changing channels on its own, thinking, well, it was the 80s and things were a bit dodgy.
Yeah.
How quickly after she left did things return back to normal?
Instantly.
Really?
It was that very day that she left, and she said, "Martin is with me now." And once I shut the door, it felt calm.
And for anybody,
And I knew he had gone.
and for anybody,
And
obviously, sorry to interrupt. Like for anybody who's obviously not experienced this kind of stuff, how did it feel for you? The whole experience of the 6 weeks.
that 6 weeks, I just didn't want to live there. I wanted to move out. I hated it.
And did you know what was going on properly?
No. We did joke about when the walls were shaking. We did joke about it and say, "Stop it, Mr. Mason."
But you didn't. But at the time, you didn't know it was Mr. Mason. Did you?
No. We had a feeling that there was a presence in the house, and because we knew that he was killed in tragic circumstances and he was only 27, it was unfinished business. He didn't finish the house, and that's what we felt. We felt that it wasn't. He wanted to finish the house.
You kind of already made that. You thought it was him. You made that link that it was could have been him before she came round. Before she came round, then.
Yes. We had that link, but I dared tell her that.
Yeah.
But when she said those words, "Martin is with me now," she must have. He was waiting for her to come back, I think.
Yeah.
That's my assumption.
Yeah. And I mean, I know that you were kind of terrified of the whole thing. Dad found it amusing, I think, from memory.
Yes. Yeah, he found it amusing. He was joking about it and laughing about it. I wasn't.
Right. But was Dad like that to protect me and like being a threat, or was it just he just genuinely found it? He wasn't trying to. He wasn't kind of just protect us from it.
I honestly don't know. That is Dad. You know, Dad. He would laugh and shrug things off, whereas I didn't, and he found it amusing. I didn't.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm hoping that your sound is better than it was. Definitely better than it was. I don't know if it's perfect, but hopefully, a bit better now with some of that. Really, with some of that experience.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Mother. I know. Thank you, Mother. I know it's been great in terms of internet connection stuff, but hopefully, you've been able to kind of get across the message a little bit better now.
Yes. Okay, then, Justin.
All right.
It's good speaking to you.
Speaking to you, I'll speak to you. I'll speak to you soon.
Bye.
Phew. Well, we kind of got there. with dodgy internet connections and audio problems. Like I said, there's not a huge amount I could have done, unfortunately, about it. Like I said, other than like some people said, maybe just having it audio only. But I know that it was a bit like Norman Collier. I do realise that. We've just like. Which is just mad. But hopefully kind of some of that came through on to you guys at home. So apologies for those kinds of issues. Hopefully, like I say, we won't have that in future. Well, if we do, then it won't be my mum, at least. Right. I just wanted to share something before, because we've been going for about 50 odd minutes or so. I just wanted to share something with you guys, and I wanted your opinion, because I mentioned this thing again. I mentioned it on the Dead Cold Paranormal thing, and it was something I watched online, And initially, I was kind of like impressed, really. I was kind of looking at it thinking, well, this looks genuine. It looks like could be genuine spirit communication. Now, what I'm talking about is, now I don't follow these guys and I don't see these guys, but it's become massive. So, two YouTubers you may or may not have heard of called Sam and Colby. Now, first of all, I know they have this big reputation for faking stuff. So I'm going to take this with a very, very big pinch of salt because they could have been faking this kind of stuff. But the whole Halloween period, they went to the Conjuring House in Rhode Island, America. And at the Conjuring House where they've been, they experienced, and it looks like intelligent spirit communication from two caretakers that work with the owners of the property. And they seem to be having some and genuine things coming across. And I was looking at it going, actually, that's pretty impressive because Sam and Colby seemed to try to debunk this weird spirit communication. So I just want to share a screen. I want to show you this the Sam and Colby bit, and I want to see if you can. What do you think of it? I'll play a little bit, and hopefully you can see it well. I'm going to just share my screen a moment. And there we go. And I'm just going to play a little bit for you guys, and you just watch at home and just tell me what you think. Hopefully this comes through. Okay.
When I get to the first letter of your name, you're going to knock. I'll restart. When I get to the second letter, you're going to knock, and I'll keep restarting until I spell out things, okay? All right. So I'm going to get your first name. A, B, Abigail Arnold. Perfect. It's great to talk to you this evening.
Hey, wait. Is this normal?
For us.
What? Dude,
So-
this is everywhere.
Do you have something you'd like to say? Okay, how many words?
Well, can I ask her something first?
Mm-hmm.
Abigail, do you know who... Can you see me pointing? Do you know who this is? Can you tell us his name?
A, B, C, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, A, B, C, B. I know, I went fast on that one. Colby? Perfect.
Okay. Now, let's just turn that off a second. So, on this episode, you seem to have intelligent spirit communication with knocks on the floorboards. Now, to have something like that on the very first day, the very first thing of going into the Conjuring House, just seems to me to be a little bit too good to be true. Don't know about you guys. What do you think? I mean, yes, they have been known to fake stuff from what I've seen and heard and read about Sam and Colby, and they're massive YouTubers, like 10 million subscribers. But the key thing for me is that those two people who seem to be communicating, are they just using spiritualist fakery from the 1800s in a modern day setting? So if you know anything about the Fox sisters, who were renowned for having this spirit communication along, very, very hundreds of years ago, they were basically came out and said that they faked things, and the way they were able to fake things was I think they were able to kind of like use one of their toes, like their little toes, I think, to kind of make this sound, which sounds very much like a knocking on wooden floorboards. Is that what these guys are doing? Because it seems to me to be a very, very strange, unusual, and uncommon thing to capture. And they think they are super impressed. And they want to show everybody, and it's already had millions of views and things like that. But to me, being ultra cautious, what do you think is the truth of that? So, first of all, I saw that, and initially I was kind of like, that's pretty good. That's pretty impressive. But then thought, okay, well, is it though? Is it genuine? What, it doesn't seem. I mean, it seems, like I say, it seems a little bit too good to be true. So what I did was I contacted the owners of the Conjuring House in Rhode Island, America, and I asked them for them to come on to this podcast. And I was not expecting them to reply. I certainly wasn't expecting them to reply anywhere near Halloween, because I thought they'd be really busy, particularly after this whole Sam and Colby thing. But within a few days, they basically said, first week of November, okay? I was like, absolutely. So next Monday, hopefully they've got a better internet connection than my mum from America. Hopefully they have. So next Monday, I'm going to be speaking with the owners of the Conjuring House. Now, by all means, guys, take a look. They have obviously the website. There's lots and lots of details online about the Conjuring House. I'd be very, very cautious about the movie. People love the movie. I love the movie. But obviously the movie was not reality, nowhere near. And I'd also be very, very cautious if you've read about Ed and Lorraine Warren's account of the Conjuring House. I'm much more interested. And a little while back, when we were doing Supernatural a long time ago, we spoke to Andrea Perron. Now, Andrea Perron was one of the original Perron family members. And she was just a lovely, beautiful woman who was able to kind of get across the reality of what it was like to live there, away from the sensationalism and away from the films and that kind of thing. So I wanted to speak to the owners. Are the owners, what exactly are they experiencing in this place? Now, the owners of the Conjuring House seem to be very kind of spiritual. Are they able to connect spirits? Is what we see on Sam and Colby reality? Is that what they experience, or is that completely unknown to them? Do they think that's an unusual occurrence? Did they have any part in faking that footage that you just saw from Sam and Colby? Did they have any part of that in terms of, or are they able to hear knocks that regularly and that intelligently? So that is who I'm speaking to on next Monday. I'm really looking forward to it. Really, really looking forward to it, because I've spoken to Andrea Perron, but I've never spoken to the owners of the Conjuring House. And that's the real Conjuring House, not any UK weird YouTube versions of the Conjuring House, the actual Conjuring House. By the way, thank you, Brett and Aidan at home, for trying to help sort out my mum's internet. Thank you, guys. I know it wasn't brilliant, but thank you for trying and going over there and trying to sort her out. Bless you. Thank you so much for that. Anyway, so that's what I'm speaking to next week. The week after, I have already booked in an amazing paranormal investigator called Kev Kerr. And if you don't know who Kev Kerr is, he's kind of under the radar. He's kind of quiet, but he's a very, very rational paranormal investigator who is extremely good at kind of pinpointing what the natural cause is for some of these haunting phenomena may be. Is it hallucinations, for instance? Is it sleep paralysis? All of these different examples. I've seen he did a brilliant talk. It's well worth checking at the ASAP convention fairly recently. It's online on YouTube. I think all the speakers spoke onto it, and he was talking about the hauntings and the experience of people in hauntings and what the rational explanations for them could be. So that's who I've got on the week after the Conjuring House. So this is it. This is, in terms of starting everything off as we kind of mean, well, maybe not the internet issues with my mom, but actually the rest of it, starting as we mean to go on. I hope, like I said, in terms of the chat, you've kind of enjoyed chatting away online. Like I said, I haven't been able to read much of the online chat, so apologies for that. But I am going to try and make sure that in every kind of podcast, I will try and get hold of comments and questions and things like that. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing on Monday. So when I'm talking to the owners of the Conjuring House, all the way through, if you just keep putting your questions in online, because they are going to be joining us live. It's not going to be pre-recorded or anything like that. It's going to be a live chat. So put your questions into those guys. It's going to be a really, 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 hopefully fascinating chat with the people who actually own that property. And if you've, listening in America and you've visited that, I know Amy and Ryan Bradway and I certainly know Ryan's. They've both been to the Conjuring House, but I know a couple. If you're watching this in America and you've been to the Conjuring House, what was your experience of that place? Did you get nothing? It's a little bit like 30 East Drive. You hear a lot of kind of hype about a place, but when you actually go there, did you actually get anything? So I would be really interested to hear from anybody who may have actually visited the Conjuring House in America and experienced it for themselves. And they can say, and you can say, what your experience of it was. Was it anything like Sam and Colby? Did you get any kind of spirit communication knocking on floorboards on the first the first floor or the ground floor? What exactly did you get? So join us next week, Conjuring House. Thank you guys for joining us. Like I said, I'm going to try and keep these to about an hour, and I think it's just over an hour now. And just before I go, again, thank you so much for the support. I really, really appreciate it. If you like the whole idea of what I'm trying to get across, and you like the idea of podcasting, it being interactive and fun and lively, and and you guys kind of enjoying the weirdness in the chat and laughing at my mom and laughing at trying to get my brothers to go round to her house and all of that kind of stuff. Like, it's all lighthearted, it's all good fun. So apologies for my mum's audio. It was horrendous. Apologies. But we did try and sort it out, didn't we, Brett? Thank you. But yeah, so if you've enjoyed it and you think you would like to see more of this kind of thing, it's like I said, we're going to keep it really nice and light. We're not going to go into kind of ranting territory because I can't be doing with it. I'm too old for that rubbish. So if you like, please if you can, if you share it around, subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet, and if you kind of would like more of this kind of thing. But next week, really, really good talk. And like I say, and hopefully every single week we'll have I'm going to try and get a different guest in every single week if I can, because I think it's much more fun and much more interactive for people to watch really interesting people. And if you've had an amazing experience, a paranormal experience, and you would like to be part of this podcast every single, on a Monday, chatting to me, hopefully with good internet connection, then by all means, drop me a line, follow me on at Paranormal Monk on Twitter, or you send a message, or you can send me a message on this video or anything like that, and I'll get hold of you, have a little chat and things like that. And like I say, and you could too be on this podcast, chatting to me and talking to the people at home. So before I go, thank you. I really, really do appreciate it. Hopefully this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Right, guys. So thank you very much. I will see you next Monday. Bye-bye.